The Springfield Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting for September is called to order. Please stand and we'll say the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for being here tonight. I want to start out by just telling you thank you for volunteering and working at the Bicentennial Day for the concert. I know a lot of you put 2 days in, and it was remarkable all the praise that we are receiving to the city of Springfield and all the volunteers that came out to help that day. That was a great event, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you did to make this so successful. To Gina, our city manager, and our assistant city manager, Ryan, y'all headed up this team, and what a great job it was. I want to also thank all the volunteers, and there were 5 other people on that committee besides Gina and Ryan. Danny Ashley, Jordan Osborne, and Ace Tindermeyer. And I want to thank them. They've been working on this celebration for months. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen held on August 20th, 2019. Do I hear a motion? Oh, I forgot. I need to look over here. Alderman Hubbard made the motion, seconded by Alderman Harris. Are there any corrections? No corrections? We vote here. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? 1.3, the recognition of the graduates from the Municipal Management Academy. I will ask all of our aldermen to come down front. We'll call everybody's name, present them with their certificates at this time.
All right, well, we're going to recognize our graduates from the Municipal Management Academy, which was held earlier this year. That is an 8-week course that is hosted and put on. We did it here, but it was hosted by the Municipal Technical Advisory Service, which is MTAS, a program out of the University of Tennessee. And we had about almost 40 of our supervisors, managers, department heads, and leaders go through this course and learn what it was like to be a manager. So it's an accomplishment, a huge accomplishment, and I think we all found some great benefit out of it. So.
Thank you, Ryan. The first person I'd like to call on is Charles Vogel. Thank you so much for completing this course. I hope that you have benefited from this.
Sure, thank you.
Madison Burnett. Thank you, Madison. I'm going to pass it to you. Scott McLean. I'm going to pass this to you so that I can shake your hand. Scott, thank you for completing that. He's got Jarvis Summers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe McLeod. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Your certificate's here. Elizabeth Leonard. Thank you, Elizabeth. Jeremy Liggett. Thank you. Stephen Wasserman. Thank you, Stephen. Gary Knoll. We're so proud of all of you for doing this. I know sitting in the classroom is not fun, but I'm sure you've all learned something. Gary, you learned something, correct?
Yes, I did.
Good job. Jacob Camp. I should make each one of you tell something special about the class. Something. Put you on the spot. Thank you for completing it. Jason Duffer. Thank you, Jason. Wallace West. Thank you, Wallace. Brian Suter. Thank you, sir. Steve Berry. Thank you for doing it. Rodney Hoover. Come on down. Thank you for doing that. Jason Head. Thank you, Chief Head. Yes, proud of all of you. Jeff DeGlosky. I've been practicing all day. Said I'm just going to call him Jeff from now on, and I'm not going to have to worry about that anymore. I apologized before I got up here. Miss Lisa Crockett. Thank you, Lisa. Our last presentation goes to Mr. Ryan Martin, our assistant manager. Thank you, Ryan. I'm going to hold this till you get done. Thank you, everyone. We so appreciate each and every one of you. I'm not just saying this. We have the best employees. I tell all the other mayors around our region that there's better employees in Springfield. And I don't just say that. I know each and every one of you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Well, I know how to empty out a room. 1.4 is our public hearing. Our first public hearing is ordinance 19-18, an ordinance rezoning 56 parcels located in the 9th Civil District from Commercial General District, Commercial Service District, or R7 High Residential District to Core Commercial CC District. If there's anyone that would like to speak, please come to the mic, state your name, and you have 2 minutes. But over here. We threw you off.
Hey guys, my name is Robert Everest. I'm with Black Lion Realty, and I'm the one who put forward the request on this. I'm excited to see this before the council, and I really appreciate and respect the time that you've put into considering this. So thank you all for that, no matter which way this goes. But for any with questions, the way I viewed this when we brought it forward is, as a real estate professional, I see a portion of town that really is struggling in terms of development, growth, and upkeep. And anything like that is always something that typically hurts a town. Rezoning this allows for a lot of growth. It allows for a lot of professionals that want to invest in property here to finally make that choice, because obviously if there's a question if it could be rezoned or not, it's very hard to make a big investment. So having the zoning accomplished is a really strong thing, and I believe it will take care of a lot of the little issues that are happening in that area as well, in terms of some of the social stuff and the people things. So anyways, I appreciate your time, and thank you for considering the request.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Please come to the mic. No one else? The public hearing is closed. Our second public hearing is ordinance 19-19, an ordinance amending the City of Springfield Municipal Code by amending Chapter 11, Section 221, entitled Anti-Noise Regulation, and Section 225, entitled Public Conduct During a Special Event. If you would like to speak to this public hearing, please come to the mic, state your name, and you have 2 minutes. If there's no one that would like to speak, the public hearing is closed. 2.1, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-17 on a third and final reading. An ordinance amending the fiscal year 2020's annual budget for the City of Springfield by amending certain general fund and utility fund operating budgets. Do I hear a motion? Motion was made by Alderman Hubbard, and it was seconded by Alderman Gregg. Discussion, gentlemen? Is this the one you wanted to amend?
Wondered what?
Is this the one you need to amend?
No.
No. Okay.
Yes, Lisa needs
They're
to
all,
amend it.
they're,
Lisa needs it amended.
Okay.
I'm going to call
Okay.
on Miss Lisa Crockett.
I didn't remember that.
The only change that you're going to see from the last reading is that I added a digger derrick truck for the electric department that's to come out of depreciation that was ordered last fiscal year, but it hadn't come in yet. So we need to make sure we have the monies in this year's budget.
Okay.
It was left off of the previous amendment when I added all the items.
This is on the amendment.
Okay, so on the amendment, Alderman Hubbard has made the motion, but we do not have a second. Alderman Harris is seconded. Okay, discussion? Any questions for Ms. Crockett? No questions, gentlemen? We're ready to vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Record the votes, please.
Amendment passes 6-0.
Thank you. Okay? Back to the main motion as amended. Any questions? Discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. 2.2, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-18 on a second reading. An ordinance rezoning 56 parcels located in the 9th Civil District from Commercial General District, Commercial Service District, or R7 High Residential District to Core Commercial District. Would someone like to make the motion in a second to discuss? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Gregg. Discussion, gentlemen. Questions?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I own two of those parcels that are under consideration for rezoning, and as such, I'll be not entering into the discussion and abstain when the vote comes about.
Thank you, Alderman Head. Any questions?
Comment?
Yes, sir.
I've longed for this type of project to come because part of that at time was in my ward, and I was tired of the decay and neglect.
It's exciting.
Very much so.
Any other discussion? Ready for a vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 5-0 to 1. Alderman Head abstains.
Thank you. 2.3, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-19 on a second reading. An ordinance amending the City of Springfield Municipal Codes by amending Chapter 11, Section 221, entitled Anti-Noise Regulation, and Section 225, entitled Public Conduct During Special Events. Would someone like to make a motion? And a second? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Harris. Discussion, gentlemen? Questions? Yes, sir.
Do we feel like we've got this as close to right as possible this time?
Yes, we do. I mean, the changes were very minor, but everyone was pretty much in agreement that this is the way we need to go.
Other discussion? Mr. Hubbard, did you have something?
No, I just noticed boombox noise is kind of increasing, so this would shut it down.
Any other discussion? We're ready for a vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. 2.4, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-20 on a first reading. An ordinance abandoning the right-of-way between Jones Street and Davis Street. Will you please read this?
Ordinance 19-20, an ordinance abandoning right-of-way between Jones Street and Davis Street. Whereas Ann R. Wooden, Winston Parks, Jim Moore, and Harvey Combs have requested the right-of-way of approximately 20 feet in width to be abandoned between 4 parcels owned by the above. And whereas the City of Springfield Planning Commission has reviewed the request and recommends the right-of-way be abandoned. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. The right-of-way located between parcels located on tax map 91B, Group B, parcels 38, 39, 50, and 53 of the tax maps of Robertson County, approximately 20 feet in width and approximately .15 acres shown in Exhibit A attached, will be abandoned by the City of Springfield. Easements for all existing utilities owned or maintained by the City of Springfield utility departments within this right-of-way will be required and given to the respective utility departments and shown on a survey plat provided at the requester's expense. Owners of the property shall be responsible for obtaining all surveys and legal adjustments to amend the property deeds of properties included and shall be responsible for all costs of said work. All ordinances and policies in conflict herewith are hereby rescinded to the extent of the conflict only. This right-of-way abandonment shall become effective following its third and final passage as required by law.
Thank you, Ms. Brickles. Do we have a motion to discuss? And a second. Motion made by Alderman Harris is seconded by Alderman Hubbard. Okay, gentlemen, questions, comments? Pretty straightforward. We're ready for a vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. 2.5, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-21 on a first reading. A ordinance adding 9 parcels located in the 9th Civil District to the Springfield Historical District overlay. Will you please read this, Ms. Brickles?
Ordinance 19-21, an ordinance adding 9 parcels located in the 9th Civil District to the Springfield Historic District overlay. Whereas a petition was presented to the Springfield Planning Commission requesting certain parcels and portions of right-of-way located on 3rd Avenue West, Connell Street, North Oak Street, and North Main Street be added to the Springfield Historic District overlay containing approximately 3.74 acres. Whereas the City of Springfield Planning Commission has reviewed the request and voted with a favorable recommendation for these parcels and portions of right-of-way to be added to the Springfield Historic District overlay. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. 9 parcels and portions of right-of-way totaling approximately 3.74 acres and being more fully described by Exhibit A attached are hereby added to the Springfield Historic District overlay. This addition to the Springfield Historic District overlay shall become effective following its third and final passage as required by law.
Thank you. We're ready for a motion and a second. Do we have a second? Alderman Hubbard made the motion. Alderman Head seconded the motion. We're ready for discussion.
Mayor, this petition came from these property owners that are listed, is that correct?
Yes. Yes, they all asked to be included.
Good question. Other questions, discussion?
I'm just pleased with the work that's going on in the historic district.
Very-
Spruce stuff is looking real beautiful.
Very proud of our historic district. Lots of people coming in talking about it. Any other questions, discussion? Ready for the vote? Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 6-0.
2.6, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 19-22 on a first reading. An ordinance to rescind the current personnel policies and procedures manual and adopt a new personnel policy manual. Will you please read?
Ordinance 19-22, an ordinance adopting a revised personal policies and procedures manual for the City of Springfield by rescinding Ordinance 92-21 in its entirety and all amendments thereto and substituting a new personal policies and procedures manual. Whereas Article 8, Section 3 of the Charter of the City of Springfield requires personal rules and policies be adopted by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and whereas the city's current policy manual was originally adopted by Ordinance 92-21 with subsequent amendments thereto, and whereas it is necessary to revise and update the policies and procedure in order to comply with all federal and state laws and regulations. Now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of the City of Springfield, Tennessee as follows. Ordinance 92-21 is hereby rescinded and a new personal policies procedures manual entitled City of Springfield Personal Policy Manual is hereby adopted as set forth in Exhibit A attached. All ordinances, resolutions, and policies in conflict herewith shall be rescinded to the extent of the conflict only.
Thank you. Now we need a motion to discuss in a second. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard and seconded by Alderman Harris. Questions? Ms. Holt, our city manager.
Okay, as you can see, this is to completely rescind everything that we've had up to this point. As you can see, in 92, I think, it was completely rewritten, and we've modified it several times since then. But this is a completely start from new policy, and it's pretty much updating everything as far as all the laws that have changed and using the most recent regulatory wording and languages. But there are really no changes as far as any of the policies, with the exception of two, and I'd like to point those out. One is it establishes a sick leave bank for employees, which we've talked about for years. And sometimes it doesn't come up very often, but occasionally an employee who's been with the city, and they have to be over a year, but they will have some kind of personal situation where a family member, we had one where a daughter was in a pretty bad accident. So you want to be able to help these employees, and this is the way that employees can help, and it's all voluntary, and they can donate their sick leave to that individual, and it will all be accounted for. So that's one of the changes, and I think that's a very good thing. And the other one applies to firefighters that are on a 24-hour schedule. If they're on a shift for 24 hours, if they get sick one day, they have to take 24 hours of leave. So we've checked on this for years, and we came up with a plan that would add 4 hours of vacation leave, 4 hours of sick leave every month to their accrual. So it's a big, it starts, and so those are really the only changes. Everything else is just to update and revise and bring current.
Okay, questions, gentlemen?
Did this change any of the number of hours that are carried over from year to year as far as vacation or sick or?
No, we still have a cap on the most that you can accrue in a year. That's it.
And that's not changing?
That's not changing.
Other questions?
I think we're in sync with what I guess you can say the American workplace is trying to get. So I'm proud of us.
Any other questions?
Yes,
Mr. Sneed?
saw the, trying to get back, I messed it up, I touched it and threw off the gift policy. I don't like that. I don't think anybody should be receiving any gifts. But I've tried to get that taken out, but I'll make my statement on it, but.
Well, and that part
I know
hasn't changed, but that's what it is. But I think it was, what, $50 or something?
Well, that has changed for the worse. I'd like to get rid of it altogether, but not successful last time I tried.
Okay. Other discussion? No other discussion? I'm sorry?
We had a major discussion on that. $50 dinner. Get a good dinner is about $50, okay? So that's about the limit. No other kind of under the table gifts and stuff. So.
Okay.
And that applied citywide to elected officials and anybody else, right?
All across the board.
I'm talking about ball tickets, clothes, gifts, things like that.
$50.
You don't take it. $50, that's it.
Okay.
Vendor tickets, it's pretty significant. It shouldn't be there.
Any other discussion, gentlemen? Questions? Ready for a vote? Would anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 5-1.
Thank you. 2.7, discuss and possibly take action on Resolution 19-21, a resolution authorizing the appropriation of funds in the year 2020 annual budget for the financial aid of the nonprofit charitable and nonprofit civic organizations per TCA Section 6-54-111. We need a motion. Motion made by Alderman Harris and seconded by Alderman Hubbard. Questions? Discussion, gentlemen.
discussion.
Yes, sir.
And what I was sharing with you, we're seeing a trend of juvenile violence and juveniles really getting in trouble. And the YMCA was sort of helping us with that. So I'm definitely proud that we need to keep that in there. And while I'm saying this, let's watch our children. And let's, as a community, understand me, try to reach out so that we won't have to see these things like the last newscast that we saw, okay? Because our youth are hurting, and they're hurting because home can't support them, but the community need to. And as an elected official, I think it's my job to let this come out of my mouth, that we need to rally to save our youth. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Other questions? Ms. Holt?
One thing I did want to point out, and of course, all of these agencies, they were included in the budget, and we do this every year, and they have all been notified of all the documentation that they need to provide before we give them any funding. So sometimes they don't get around to it till the end of the year, if at all. But one of the new things that this board did was include the IRS Form 4506T. Now, Ms. Crockett can address this better than I can because she's studied it a little bit, but we probably need some clarification from this board. The rules changed in July of this year. So what was passed before on the form, it's all changed, and the IRS is now not sending third parties these transcripts. We need more guidance from this board as far as what we're looking for specifically, because when you look at this form and see all the transcripts, it gets a little convoluted, and we just need some clarification for exactly what this board wants that's not covered in, say, the 990 or any of the other documents that they have to provide with their services, their financials, their programs, their audit. Ms. Crockett, is there something else that, I mean, we just need some clarification.
Yes, I do need clarification because one of the nonprofits has inquired as to how to fill out the form, and then when I asked them, I explained how to fill out the form based on what I understood this board was going to want, and they didn't want to release that information. And I don't know that we really need that information because I think everything that we need to see would be on the 990, because this is getting into individuals' information on if we ask for any of this additional information.
And that was the W-2s.
Yes.
Oh, we can't do W-2.
Well, that's what this form, the 4506T, that's one of the things that's included are the W-2s. And when you have an organization, especially that's got a whole lot,
We can't do that.
It's the W-2s of every employee?
Yes.
That's what
That's
one
what you
of
have
these-
to ask for a transcript of, yes. It's
Across the-
redacted information, but yes,
Across all of Middle Tennessee.
for that
Organization.
organization, yes.
We can't
Yes,
do
it was
that.
over 3,500 employees for this one organization.
Can't do that.
And so they're not going to give it to us, so if they aren't going to do it, then I guess we wouldn't be able to give them their funding. I'm not so sure that we need that, so.
Alderman
Are
Harris.
we allowed to amend this motion to take out that form in our requirements?
Oh, you all can certainly do that.
What was the form number?
4506T.
Tell me again specifically what that requires, or what you ingest, what that form requires? That they supply the W-2s of all
Well,
their employees?
the form has several different, when they fill it out, it's got all these different, they need to know what we're asking for because it's got a whole list of transcripts. And the transcripts cover different things, and some of them, the one that covers the most includes the W-2s, the Form 1099s, 1098s, and 5498s, but that's the largest one that covers absolutely everything. But then you've got others, the account transcript, but if you want the record of account, which covers the return transcript and the account transcript, I mean, it got a little more complicated than we initially thought. We thought they could fill this out, sign it, turn it over, we could get transcript, tax returns or whatever. But it turns out that they have to fill out part of it, then we have to.
They have to fill out the incomplete form, and they have to submit it, and then they will receive the information, and then they would have to provide that to us. The IRS will no longer send it directly to us. It's changed in July of this year.
That would be a lot of papers.
So a question for Ms. Crockett then. What information do you think we need?
I don't think we need any additional information other than what we had always normally requested. The 990, we usually get their audit, their budget, the
services, the
status,
programs.
statistics of who they service, and
The board of directors and the
yes.
officers.
we
and-
get a lot of
Is
information.
that all part of the 990?
No, it's all, those are all separate items. The 990 is just their tax return, basically.
So in
Which
your-
it lists all their directors, the compensation that the directors and their officers receive. It lists key employees, it lists highly compensated individuals. So it gives the higher paid individuals listed on that 990. So I'm not sure what information was also needed in addition to what would be provided on the 990.
So if we amended this to exclude Form 4506, would that solve
Yes.
our problem, or is there still other things?
No, that
need
would
to be
solve the
taken
problem, because that was just added, that was an additional requirement we added this year.
And it changed after we added it, after this board did.
But all that information doesn't automatically come, it would only come if we requested it. Is that right?
We have to.
Are you talking about, what information are you referring to?
The 4506T is not automatically filed with IRS.
That's
It
correct.
would
They
only-
have to specifically file that form and send us the information.
But it would only be filed if we requested it.
That's correct.
Right, there's,
Yeah.
But can we-
Only if there was some question about the information we received that we needed more information, would that 4506T be requested?
And also,
Be sent to IRS.
I understand what you're saying, but it's the way that this is written.
Right.
If we request this from one entity, do we have to request it from all entities?
Yes.
And we would have to do it before funds are released.
So I guess the second I want to say, so we're within our legal right to do what we just,
To amend it?
To do away with it?
to amend it like we're amending it. I guess that's what I want to ask. Legal mind.
It's something that you all adopted, that this board adopted several months ago, and so certainly you have the ability to rescind that requirement.
Okay, that's all I need to hear.
Okay.
Mayor,
Thank you. Yes, I've already got it.
does anyone have any question why this was added and why it was passed by a 3-4 margin? Can you remember, there was a reason why this was put in there. It was for good reason. It passed 3-4.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess nobody's going to try to respond to that, but,
And I think we requested it, we did it at your request, did we not?
that's right, because I found issues with one of the charities.
Okay.
And, I mean, we're okay with gift, we just passed a gift policy. People can give us gifts, that's okay, but for the money that we, in our fiduciary responsibility, give to charities, there's 3 out of the 4 people on this board did not want any accountability or even ask the charities what they're doing with this money. That seems to be almost,
Well, I think they would supply that to us in the budget that they give to us as far as what they're doing with their monies. And then also, and
well,
just
Mr.
asking,
well, Mr. Harris, they can write anything on that piece of document. We get it straight. If you go to the bank and want a loan, you can't just bring your IRS forms to them. You got to let them get it themselves to make sure you don't change the figures. That's the same figure she uses at the bank when she's doing a loan. It's no different. If they're coming to us asking for money, just like when I go to a bank and ask money, I have to give this to them.
well, am I correct in my understanding then with the new guidelines or laws that went into effect with the IRS the 1st of July? Is that correct? Did we have new rules this year that we are not really allowed to ask?
They just modified the form, and before, we could have them send it directly to us, and that would be all fine, but now they have to get it, and then they have to send it to us. They will not, the IRS is not going to release information straight to us any longer.
But you feel in the current information, if we exclude this form, that we are receiving the necessary information we need
I do.
to distribute this money? that
Alderman
we
Harris
approve
has
to
the floor.
To these charities?
I do.
With
In my
that.
professional opinion, yes.
You think you would pick up on any discrepancies in what you're seeing, if there were any?
I would think so, yes.
Alderman Harris, you're finished. I promised Mr. Hubbard he was next, and then Mr. Snead.
I don't want to own that we don't show physical accountability about letting this money go. But the big argument before was to alleviate biases and prejudice toward certain organizations that we wasn't going to tolerate. That was a big argument before. Certainly want to know if the money is spent, certainly want to know what they're spending it for, certainly want to know their budgets and everything else. So that was a big argument before, and I'm not going to open that up again.
Alderman Snead.
As everyone on this board knows, one of these charities refused a dues-paying member and an elected official to get the details of what they're doing with those funds, to the point it had to be, civil action in court had to happen. Now, I didn't pursue it to its complete end, but I got the answers to the questions that I was asking. And if you are in support of organizations who do not want elected officials and their members, their dues-paying members, in their charter have a right to see this, to refuse to see what they're doing with that money. If you're in support of that, then you will try to rescind this.
Okay. Ms. Holt. I will move on to Mr. Harris. Ms. Holt.
I was just going to say, for people in the audience and people watching on TV, so that you know that we are being fiscally responsible, I think everyone needs to know what we ask for. So we know up here because we're looking at it, but we ask for every organization to give us a copy of their annual audit, a description of the program that serves the residents of the city of Springfield, the proposed use of the municipal assistance, so the funding, how are they using the funding, a statistical report denoting the types and quantity of services provided to the residents of Springfield, a listing of the members of the board of directors and officers of the organization, and a copy of the organization's most recent IRS Form 990 filing. So we are asking for quite a bit of information on their programs, how they're spending the money, they've got their audit, all their financial stuff. So we are being fiscally responsible. I want everybody to know that.
Thank you, Ms. Holt, for pointing that out. Sometimes we get carried away up here and we know what we're reading and we don't share that, and I don't share that, so thank you so much. I don't personally, in my opinion, when we voted for this, I don't think we thought we were going to get W-2s for all the employees, and I personally do not want that. Alderman Harris, I think you had your hand up.
My only comment, I would take exception to what Alderman Snead commented. I mean, I feel that as a dues-paying member of whatever organization you're talking about, you may have right to those papers and things that you request, but because we are elected officials does not give us any right to anything from anyone in the city of Springfield. If they come before this board, we have certain guidelines that we put into effect, and we expect them to abide by that. But just because we're elected doesn't give us the right to go in and investigate anything.
Okay. More discussion. Mr. Snead.
I'll take objection to Mr. Harris's position on that. As elected officials, we do have a fiduciary responsibility. Now, some of us take it more serious than others, so I'll take it at that. Mr. Harris is not as serious as I am about it.
Some of us take it overly serious also.
I think
Any other discussion?
We beat the horse to death. We're ready to vote, please.
Mr. Harris, can you state your amendment?
My amendment would be to exclude Form 4506 from our policy regarding requirements for nonprofit donations from the city of Springfield.
And I'm the second.
Hold on, she's typing it in. We'll have to do it through the computer. Is the motion going, the amendment going to pop up? Okay. There's a motion on the floor to amend. Do we have a second?
I'll push the second. I second it.
He already has a second.
Oh, we already had a second. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That motion was made by Alderman Harris and seconded by Mr. Hubbard. Any more discussion? We're ready for a vote?
On the amendment.
On the amendment. Thank you for pointing that out. Would anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 4-2.
Okay? Back on the main motion as amended. Any more discussion?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I think that was a disgrace of a vote.
Okay?
Ready.
Any other discussion? No more discussion? We're ready for a vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 5-1.
Thank you. 3.1, discuss and possible take action on the adjustment of the retail electric rates for the Springfield Electric Department due to a wholesale fuel cost adjustment by the Tennessee Valley Authority. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
No, on the computer. And do we have a second? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard and seconded by Alderman Harris. Any discussion? Oh, we need to know what it is. Mr. Gardner, getting ahead of myself. If you're wondering what happens with this, we have to vote on this every month. Of course, TVA tells us what it's going to be, and Mr. Robert Gardner is going to tell us what that is.
As he walked up to the,
No, you're good. You're good.
is he
You got a
good?
5.4% decrease this month.
Yes. I like that.
Lord.
Okay. Any discussion?
Vote on that one.
Shoo! Please let us vote real quick before they change their mind. I don't think we've had one of those in a while. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. 3.2, discuss and possible take action on the adjustment of the monthly gas rates of the Springfield Gas Department. We're ready for a motion and a second. Motion made by Alderman Harris, seconded by Alderman Hubbard. Mr. Riddle.
Purchase gas adjustments now 4.95%. That this month is 29 cents. Purchase gas adjustments. That's the lowest I've ever seen it, and I've been calculating this for 11 years.
Good news.
I went back back to 2004 on my spreadsheet. It's the lowest I've ever seen it, so don't expect it. But anyway, I thought I'd pass that along.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. Any questions? We're ready for a vote. I better vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Gentlemen, we will be expecting you both to go down next month again. Just want to point that out. Okay? 3.3, Discuss and possible take action to approve task order number 20 for Gresham Smith, Inc. in the amount of $79,400 for professional engineering services for the Interceptor Rehabilitation and Replacement Project. Do we hear a motion? And we need a second. Do we have a second? Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Harris. Any questions on this, gentlemen? No questions? We're ready for the vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. 3.4, discuss and possible take action on the Americans with Disabilities Act transition plan. We need a motion and a second to discuss. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Gregg. Ms. Holt? I assume you-
Okay, for those of you, again, at home and TV audience, this is the plan. It's about 300 and some odd pages, so just everybody knows that there's a whole lot in here and a lot of expense. We are required to do this because we have to submit the plan to the state. Well, I think we'll probably send it maybe tomorrow. Anyway, we have to do it pretty soon. And it's a 10-year process where we will be budgeting accordingly over $8 million probably, and but we are required by the Americans with Disabilities Act to do this. So the group that we consulted with, Wiser Consultants, started on this a year ago, and I think it was August when we had the public hearing, and that's pretty much it. I'm sure you all have looked through this, read all the details, and we need your approval so that we can submit it to the state.
Okay. Discussion? Questions? We've been talking about this for a long time. No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. 3.5, discuss and possible take action to accept funds from the Robertson County Health Department for a Build Environment Grant in the amount of $20,000. The funds will be used to construct an outdoor basketball court at J. Travis Price Park. We need a motion and a second to discuss. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Gregg. Questions? Discussion? Yes, sir. Mr. Harris?
What put out over which park it was, one over the other?
Mr. Terry Martin's coming to the mic.
Travis Price Park are one of our multi-purpose fields next to the soccer fields that we had laser graded. We have a great area right there to expand, and our plan is to put several outdoor courts there, along with maybe a couple outdoor sand volleyball courts.
Couple what?
Outdoor sand volleyball courts.
Okay. Other questions while he's at the mic? Mr. Hubbard?
Excellent move, because you have a great parking space there.
Parking's there, yep.
And also, since basketball can be aggressive, you have a lot of your men there who can sort of police and separate things.
Yeah.
Good choice. You know what I'm talking about.
Other questions while he's at the mic? Thank you, Mr. Martin. Other discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 6-0.
3.6, discuss and possible take action on a long-term partnership proposal from the Tennessee Valley Authority. We need a motion and a second. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Harris. Discussion, please. Ms. Holt, did you have? Something you want to start with?
Well, I just want to say, Mr. Gardner has worked on this at length, I think, to look at this long-term proposal, but I will say, it's a pretty good deal. It's 20 years, and with a 20-year term notice, but if we have $43,750 per month in savings for an annual savings of $525,000, that is, that's a big positive. So I'm sure there are other benefits to it, but we don't need to look at just the cost, but that goes a long way.
Dollars and cents.
I'd like to ask Mr. Gardner some questions.
Sure.
Mr. Gardner, how many utility customers do we have on our system?
We have approximately 8,200.
8,200?
Yes, sir.
If I'm looking at am I doing my math right, that this is about a $5 a month savings for the customers on the rebate, the $525,000 annual, 525. How many customers again? You said 80?
About 8,200, but it depends on how you allocate the credit, Mr. Sneed, whether we go across the board with all customer classes or just on residential.
I can't, I'm just putting it in. The money divided by 8,200 is $64 divided that by 12. It's looking at about $5.33 a month difference. It's some of the stipulations in this long-term 20-year contract says that they agree not to increase the power rates over 5%. Have we ever had a 5% increase?
We have. Back in the 90s, you weren't on the board, but I brought before you a close to a 9 or 10% increase. And one thing that, of course, TVA is here today if you have any questions, but one thing this does do, as you know, TVA has been passing through distributors, a 1.5% increase. Every fall I'm coming to you with a 1.5% rate increase from TVA.
Right.
The new CEO of TVA, Jeff Lyash, has agreed just to discontinue those rate increases indefinitely in exchange for more customer security. What it is, you got a lot of customers. TVA's got 154 power distributors, and these customers, these power distributors, have, most of them, I think over 100, have 5-year agreements that were instituted back in the 90s, and we signed one of those where we used to have a 20-year agreement, then we went to a 5-year agreement. So with all these power distributors that can give 5 years notice of termination, there's not much place for security and planning, and probably would help them financially, I'm sure. So that's kind of where we are and why they're asking for this, just so you know. But there is a benefit to it, and there is a trade-off, and the biggest benefit is, as Ms. Holt mentioned, is the credit, the 3.1% wholesale bill credit, which is in excess of $500,000 a year to us.
Mr. Gardner, the TVA is a public entity, correct?
Correct.
It's backed by the U.S. Congress, correct?
That's correct.
They don't operate exactly the same as an individual company. Their rates are low because it is publicly funded. There's, understand, I've read this, didn't just come up with some fluke of some questions right here, but I do know that there's a lot of solar farms that are trying to, the cost of solar has come down significantly. Would you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
And I think that is the main driver for, just like a phone company sees a new startup company, they want to lock in their existing customers so they can't go to something cheaper. I'm not naive to think, or that I can't see a few years down the road things change. Saving $5 a month average between our customers, that doesn't really, put a lot in my Christmas stocking.
If you read my memo, Mr. Sneed, I talked about pros and cons, and what you mentioned in my opinion, is one of the downsides of it. I think there's more upsides. But, you know, TVA's, yes, they're trying to lock in their customers long-term. That's a smart business decision. I'm sure you'd agree. But the downside that I see in this, if you looked at the 3.1% bill credit, that's the big caveat. That's the big carrot they hang out there. But there's also a commitment to explore expanded flexibility with long-term partners. That basically means contract flexibility. They're going to commit to allow us to take 3 to 5% of our load and look at other sources of power. Now, we still would have a long-term contract with TVA. How that arrangement would work is kind of undetermined at this time. But what I would like to see is a 5, 10, even a 20% contract flexibility option, to where we can take 20%, as much as 20% of our load, and build our own solar farm or provide some type of on-site generation. And not so much for the financial benefit, but just for the grid security. Because if we lose TVA, now TVA's got unbelievable reliability. That's why we built our last substation, and we take 100% of our power supply from TVA's 161 line out on Batson Parkway. 99.999% reliability is pretty good. So on a larger perspective, I'd rather be in a commitment or a contract with TVA than any other power supply out there. But at the same time, if the grid was to be attacked and they were to lose power, lose transmission, then we're just in the dark until TVA comes up with another option. So that's why I'd like to see more flexibility as far as, can we go out there and build a 20 megawatt gas-fired plant? Can we go out and build a 20 megawatt solar farm or something to be able to have some type of emergency backup supply, so to speak, just in case we were to lose the grid. So that's what I'd like to see, and TVA is here to address any questions you would have towards that. I don't think they can answer where they plan to go with that today.
I'm with you on that, and what if I were to make an amendment to this? This is a contract we're being asked to approve. This is a contract, correct?
It is a contract you're being asked to sign.
But it's a contract is it malleable?
I don't think it's up for negotiation. I think the offer, it is what it is. And we can...
Has any one of the other 154 distributors got anything different?
No,
or is it all the same?
It's all the same.
Well, you're wanting to get a 10 to 15% flexibility, and do you think that's, do you think there's any hope in negotiating that? Or is that just something that you like, but you know it's not going to happen?
No, it's not going to happen. I'd like to see it, like to propose it, but reality is,
well,
Okay.
I tried to get
Other
the city.
questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor. A couple of months ago, I tried to initiate a city policy where instead of having our own coal-fired plant, gas-fired plant, or solar farm, to try to get individual homeowners an incentive to have solar panels to offset a percentage of their electricity individually. Then you would have basically small power plants all throughout the city and as individuals, and it would be harder to attack. Instead of it all in one place, it's all spread out.
Okay, back to the proposal.
I wasn't finished, Mayor, please. That's a very important thing where we need to be thinking about going towards. I'm sorry that we didn't get that, but I appreciate your comments, and I don't have any questions from the TVA people, but do y'all have anything y'all would like to add?
Okay, I'm going to ask for more questions from our aldermen. More questions?
I feel that since TVA is a major national entity, I feel that they're looking at ways to prevent major sabotage and stuff like that. So I trust that they're staying abreast to things like being attacked. So I'm going to trust staying with the contract and trust that they will look out and make sure that we won't go in the dark.
Okay. Other questions? Mr. Harris?
Just say that I have 100% confidence in Mr. Gardner, and what he brings before this board, I think he suggests what needs to be done and what this board should consider to be done, and I would place our confidence in him and this contract through TVA.
Okay. Other questions?
Mayor, I don't feel confident tying into the 20-year agreement, no, just like I wouldn't tie into a 20-year cell phone agreement. Things are changing fast.
Okay. Other questions? We're ready for a vote. Would anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 5-1.
Okay. 3.7, discuss and possible take action on the electric rate changes amended by the Tennessee Valley Authority. We need a motion and a second to discuss. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Harris. Questions? Mr. Gardner has stayed at the podium, and I'm sure he'll be happy to answer anything you have on this change amendment.
Yes, but it is.
No. No questions? Ready for the vote? Thank you, Mr. Gardner. Would anyone like to change their vote? Please record.
Motion passes 6-0.
3.8, discuss and possible take action to approve a request from Alderman Trotter to appoint Teresa Taylor to the Beer Board to represent Ward 2 as a replacement for Wayne Dickerson, who stepped down in August. The term expires June 30th of 2022. We need a motion and a second to discuss. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Gregg. Any discussion? No discussion? Ready for the vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record.
Motion passes 6-0.
3.9, discuss and possible take action to approve payment for an easement for the wastewater department sewer relocation project on Carrs Creek. We need a motion and a second. Motion made by Alderman Harris. Alderman Hubbard made the second. Any discussion? Questions? Staff did a great job with putting all this in our packet. No questions? Ready for the vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. 3.10, Police Department request to award a bid for emergency plumbing repairs replacement in the amount of $16,750.24 to Hiller Commercial Services of Nashville, Tennessee, in the budget in the operating fund. Do I hear a motion to discuss in a second? On our iPads. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Gregg. Ms. Holt.
Actually, that amount has changed. $1,100 has been added to that, so the total is actually $17,850.24. They ran into some more problems. The additional memo is in the agenda packet. You will see this has been a huge mess for the police department, but it's work that has to be done. And so they ran into apparently a large mass of concrete that was very old, and they had to go through that. So that added the additional cost.
Okay.
Jane, can you explain more detail about exactly what happened there? You're talking about a sewer line that had a low spot in it, and it was backing up because of this low spot. Was the low spot outside or inside the building?
I think Chief Head could probably answer that better than I can.
Chief Head?
All right. You're dealing with the older part, the 60s part of the building. And in the 90s, when it was redone, they tied the 2 new toilets into the older sewer line where the jails were. That line was never replaced. That entire line was articulated, and in some spots it was gone, completely gone. We've run the camera. I don't know how many times we've had the water department come out and try to fix it for us. And it finally got to the point where it was more than likely seeping out, sewage was seeping out into underneath the building.
So all of this outside work and over the years of looking at this, that wasn't an inside fix that anybody could do. I mean, we changed manholes, but we couldn't fix a sewer lateral line to the police department.
It was buried in the old concrete in the older part of the jail.
Well, I mean, I understand, but I mean, I'd reroute it there. I mean,
It was. They didn't dig the old line up. What they did was come in and dig and put a new line in going straight out. And when the additional part of the foundation that was poured sometime in the 60s in that older part of the building, nobody knew that additional concrete was there.
do you think this is a just amount? I mean, how many hours did it take them to fix all this?
Well, it took them almost 3 days to get to this point. It's still not completed. They just poured the concrete on Friday, and it's setting now. We did have 4 other people come in. 2 companies wouldn't even give us a bid without paying $450 up front for running their camera systems. Right. And we weren't going to commit to that and just spending money just to get a bid. And then 5 Star locally wanted, you saw the amount, right. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief Head. Any other questions? No other questions? Ready for the vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. We're ready for our consent doc.
Motion to accept the whole.
Okay. He's made a motion to accept. Is that what the whole
Yes,
consent?
the whole,
Are we all,
whole document.
the 2 in agreement?
Yes.
The motion is made by Alderman Hubbard, seconded by Alderman Harris. Okay. Any discussion? We're ready for the vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, we're ready for our city manager's report. Ms. Gina Holt.
Well, I don't have much. Of course, I've been on vacation, so the only thing I'd like to mention is that our Citizen Police Academy started tonight, as a matter of fact, from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and it's a 9-week program. So I'm very excited about it. I know I went through the class a long time ago. I guess the first class in 95, and I think they are going through a lot more. They're getting to do more and see more than we did. So it's an exciting thing for the police department, and it's helping them to, build up their community relations and help people understand all that they have to go through. So I think it's a very good thing, and congratulate them on starting that program again.
Well, and we're headed over there to speak, I think, right now. So I want to thank you, Jason, for getting this together. Chief Head has done a great job, and the community is excited about this. If you ever, as an alderman, want to go out and ride with them, please contact them. This meeting is adjourned.
That was quick.